Hello, this is Amanda for Lavinia World, and today we're going to be making a window card using the new Fairy Cuts dies, and we're going to be making a somewhat ethereal background for this card. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with Tumbled Glass Distress ink and a blending brush. And we're going to start at the top of the card front and just kind of pull our blending brush down in a straight downward motion. And I'm starting with a somewhat heavy pressure, and then I'm just kind of lifting up as I go down towards the middle of the card, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Excuse me. So then once I'm kind of happy with that, I'm going to flip the card around and do the same thing. So we're going to end up with kind of a darker color towards the whatever's the top of our card at the moment, and it's going to fade out towards the middle. So we're just going to keep doing that until we're happy with it, and then we'll move on to the next color. And we're going to, the lighter colors are going to have a heavier application of ink, and we're just going to move lighter applications as we move to the darker colors. So I just keep flipping it around and adding more ink until, like I said, until I'm happy with what I have here. So now we're going to move on to the next color, which is Peacock Feathers, I believe. We'll see. Yes, it is. And then we're just going to speed this up. So that first part was in real time so that you could kind of see what I was doing. And now this is going to be sped up. I believe it's 2 times. So we're just going to move this a little bit faster now that you've seen what I was doing. And again, like I said, we're going to, move lighter applications of ink as we move towards the darker colors. We don't want to cover up all the lighter colors. Now we're going to move on to Chipped Sapphire. And then this is going to be a pretty light application of this because I don't want to cover up all those lighter colors, like I said. And we don't want to get too dark with our background because we're kind of giving this an ethereal look, like I said. So then at this point I decided this is a lot of blue and I kind of want something to kind of offset all this blue. So I came in with Wilted Violet. I thought this would be something that would kind of offset the blue but also complement it as well. So I'm just going to come in just with a tiny little bit of this purple to give it just a little bit different and not have it all blue. Just going to come in with just a little bit and then we're going to move on. And I'm just going to give you a look of how this looks. And I think that this is a pretty cool, just a little bit different way to use your inks. So at this point, I decided to mount my background to my card base. And this is just going to make it easier to cut the windows in my card. This way I don't have to die cut twice and line everything up. So I'm just going to mount this to my card base. And then we're going to figure out the placement of everything before we die cut the windows. So I'm going to lay my stamps and dies out and make sure that I have everything placed where I want it. So we've got the Moon Fairy, and then we've got the Fairy Dust is like Love Sentiment that I'm going to use. I'm not going to stamp anything yet. I just want to figure out the placement of where I want my dies and make sure that I have everything just the way I want it. So I'm going to tape down my dies. And this is some Easy C tape that I've been trying out. And for the most part, I like it. It does leave a little bit of sticky residue on my cards sometimes, but it's pretty easy to remove with an adhesive eraser. So that's where I decided to place my dies, and then I'm going to open up the card. That is very important before I run it through my die cutting machine. So this did cut all the way through both the 110-pound Nina Classic Crest Solar White card base and my 80-pound card front. So I did use the Nina 80-pound for my card front. I do not recommend using Bristol Smooth. I did try that first, and the colors just kind of blend together too much on the Bristol, so just to let you know that. Alright, so then I lined up my stamps inside the little holes there, and I lined up my other 2 stamps as well. Now, I thought that I would just try to make this easier for myself and stamp everything at once. Unfortunately, because the unevenness of the stamps that aren't placed in the holes and the stamps that are placed in the holes, this didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to. But it's fine because everything is lined up and I'm using a stamp positioner. I did get the two stamps that aren't in the holes stamped, and then I just cleaned those stamps, removed them, and opened up my card base and stamped the ones that were in the holes. So I tried to save myself a step, but that didn't work out as planned. I was hoping I could save myself a step, but oh well. So as you can see, that the two that aren't in the holes stamped great, so I'm just going to clean those stamps off, remove them, and then we're going to open up the card and stamp the other ones. I probably could have stamped the other ones if I would have just pressed a little bit harder, but I was afraid of smushing my sentiment in the fine lines of the moon fairy, so I didn't want to do that. So now we're just going to ink up the 3 dancing fairies and stamp those as well. And because I'm using a stamp positioner, everything's stamped exactly where I wanted it to. Alright, so then I decided that I wanted to add some color to my fairy wings, so I brought out my Sakura Stardust glitter pens, and I'm just going to add some glittery color to their wings. And I didn't include all that because you can't really see what exactly I'm doing on camera, so I just included a little clip for you and then we left it out. So then I'm coming in with the miniature star group and some Brilliance white pigment ink, which is kind of a shimmery white ink. And we're just going to stamp those in some random spots. I do have to stamp this ink several times for it to make a bold impression, but that's what I have a stamp positioner for. And so I did stamp this all over the background, but I'm not going to subject you to all of that. I'm just going to stamp it in a couple places here so you can see kind of what I'm doing. I did stamp some of them over the holes, so I just kind of hang it off and give it a little bit different look. And then we're just going to move on to the next step here. So the next step, I decided that I wanted to add some little dots to also represent some different stars, some smaller stars off in the distance. So I'm using my Sakura white jelly roll pen for that, and I just did them all over the background for that. And that finishes off the card for today. I hope that you enjoyed it and learned a little bit different ink blending type technique, and gives you a little bit different way to use your dies. The supply list is listed in the description box below, linked to all the supplies that you can find in the Lavinia World store. Also, we'd enjoy for you to come join the Anything Lavinia Facebook group, which is linked in the description box below. And as always, have a great day.